Hey everybody, how are you doing? Excuse me. My goodness. I wanted to talk to you today about three different kinds of people. What kind of person are you? And I wanted to talk to you about all those things in between. Like the first person, the first kind of person is things that, things I can't even talk today. Oh my gosh. Are you one of those people who make things happen? There are people who make things happen. And then number two, there are people that watch things happen. Like they just sit around and watch things happen. And then there are the third kind of person are people who don't even know things are happening. And I'd have to say that I'm probably a little bit of all three. Like I choose not to watch the news because it's so negative and so hyped up. It's like the news is designed to create, a lot of drama and stress and everything, and everybody watches it as addicting. And you watch the news to see where the hurricane was next or whatever, right? And so I don't watch the news anymore. And so maybe I choose to be a little bit ignorant about things, but number 2, like, do you sit around and watch things happen? Like, I think maybe I could watch things happen a little bit and, kinda see how things are going and make sure I know how to maneuver and do things around that, right? Or are you one of those people who actually are really up to something and make things happen? I want to be one of those people. I am choosing really hard to make things happen. And so I got the opportunity today to watch a really great talk with Les Brown, and he just finished writing a book called the book is called "You Got to Be Hungry," and he was all over the place with this talk. But one of the things that he was talking about is all the things that are coming at us right now. We've got the variant and the pandemic and people out of work and the stress around that. There's 40% divorce rate during the pandemic. It's just really incredible the stress that's happening. So you really want to not only build up a huge resiliency, like a strength around yourself, but you also want to ramp it up to actually make things happen and not let all those stories and negative things going on in our lives pull us in those different directions. You want to have a resiliency to be able to move you forward and create things and be a leader of actually making things happen. I love that. I just love the thought of that. And so, how do I move from number 2, watching things happen, to number 1, really making things happen and being one of those people? And I would love to rally and see something going on. It would be just so amazing. And I just can feel the excitement. Like when they talk about you got to be hungry, it's like just even when you're part of that movement of something happening, people get lit up. And so another thing he said that there's 4 different types of people in politics, or 4 different types of what do you call it? Politics are determined on these 4 different things. First, when you're running against somebody else, like if you're doing a business and you have competition, or if you have a neighbor, I mean, it doesn't matter what dynamic it is, but when you relate it to politics, there's in a conversation, you have a conversation that you tell about yourself, and you have a conversation that you tell others about that person, right? So you are marketing yourself and what you're saying about yourself and what that person is not or is or whatnot, right? And the same thing, the person on the other side of the coin is actually talking about you and setting a story about you, and they're setting a story about themselves. And so when you're marketing yourself, or even during this pandemic, there's stories being said over here and stories being said over here. And what are you choosing to believe? Because really, truly, there's stories. And if you were to think about in marketing or in a business that you're doing, what story are you telling people about yourself or your business, and that who you are for them? And do they believe that? And are you able to back that up and actually have that conversation you're saying be legit and be valuable and have weight to it? Um, and if it doesn't have weight to it, then you're not working strong enough or hard enough on building up that resiliency that you have. There are always going to be people out there that are going to say bad things about you. And so, in any business market, in network marketing, or running a print shop, or being on the board for Walk-In Women in Business, you're always going to have people who are going to be critical and criticize you. And so, you have to build up that resiliency. And in order to stand out, you want to be a little bit on the edge too. You don't want to be way out there and turn a lot of people off, but you want to be out there enough where you're not in the same pool of um, the mediocrity where people are being safe and playing it safe. And I, really have a conversation about this pandemic. I do. I have a lot of conversations and I share with people, but I'm being safe and I'm not saying very much on the social media platforms because I don't want to blow it up and make people mad at me. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Where do you actually become a leader and stand out and have a voice? And how do you actually make it work so that you can actually make a difference for other people? People want something to be said. They're looking for a leader and they want something to happen. Like, how many people is like want this pandemic to be over? Where's the truth? What is going on out there in the marketplace? Why are we struggling and suffering so much? Like, I watch people in India and South Africa and Tanzania and here in the United States, some people where there's so many jobs out there, nobody wants to work. There's so much suffering where people don't have money, and it's like this disconnect is happening. And Les Brown was talking a little bit about creating a ritual that empowers you. You can never count on anybody else being there for you. Seriously, you cannot count on anybody else being there for you. Now, it'd be great to have your cheerleaders and people supporting you. Everybody wants that, right? But really, when it comes down to it, you are responsible for yourself. And it seems like across the globe, the conversation is being made that you need to be responsible for everybody else but yourself. Meaning, the masks and the vaccine and all this stuff, because all the advertising is about you don't want to be responsible for somebody else's sickness. And it's like, wow, if everybody was just being responsible for themselves, then we would be okay, right? I don't know. And we have to trust ourselves with our health and taking care of our health. Like, I ask people, what are you doing about building up your natural immunity? What are you doing to yourself? Are you eating crappy, drinking? What are you doing? And where's your self care around that? So I really get upset and frustrated when people say, I don't want to talk about that, or you can't tell me this. And I'm like, well, I'm not trying to tell anybody anything. It's just like, take a look at and consider options out there that are there for you to build up your natural immunity. And, that's part of developing your resiliency, right? It's part of getting rid of that craziness. So if you were able to stay on task for self-care with you, then you don't have as much fear and worry some to be, you don't need to be as worried out there. And so you can get yourself unstuck with that conversation and that noise and actually move forward. Another thing that he was saying, which is something that I've always kind of felt maybe, I remember when Larry and I first started our print shop. Before we actually were starting, we were taking some training on learning how to run a print shop, learning how to run an offset press, and we were driving to college at night after full-time job, and we were getting home late at night and going back to work the next day. And I remember we were listening to Les Brown on those tapes. Remember, you used to have a tape deck in your car and you can listen to those tapes, and talking about one of the things that I will never forget that Les Brown said is that look at the people you're hanging around. Like, you are the average of the 5 people that you hang around. And if you are wanting to make a difference and stand out in the world and actually be a true leader, you can actually up level your conversations and up level who you're hanging around with to improve your life. If you're not happy with your life, then that's you. You have to look at what you're doing and who you're hanging around with and what self-care and what self-development you're doing to help improve your life. And I just love that because he was saying that again. He has not changed what he's been talking about up-leveling your people you're hanging out with, and because you don't want to. Well, basically, put it this way: are you robbing the cemetery of your life? So when you die, what gifts did you take in the cemetery with you that are being buried and never being used? So right now, we want to take a look at all the gifts that you have and the voice that you have to give out there in the world. Like it just makes me think about when my dad passed away at 59 years old. He was only 59. And all the things he did for his life before he turned 59. I mean, he built 13 houses, 5 businesses. He had worked full time in the post office. I mean, or not the post office, the Forest Service. Mom was in the post office, but he did so much. I mean, and he was only 59. And to think about all the different things he could have done before he passed away in his life. And I look at that I have today. And if you're a person that's sitting around waiting for things to happen, then you are, going to the cemetery with all these gifts that God has given you. People are waiting for you. People are waiting for your voice. And that just so inspires me. I had done a video the other day, and only a few people said they liked it or whatever. And I thought, oh, it's just not getting any weight. Maybe I need to change what I'm saying. Maybe people aren't listening. And somebody private texted me and said, Becky, I think God told you to say what to say today because it really spoke to me. I mean, this person didn't like my post. They didn't say anything on the comments. So I know that when you feel that nobody's listening, people are listening. And that is just amazing. That's just incredible. So, anyhow, I just wanted to say hello today and give you some inspiration about what kind of person you are. Are you one of those 3 people, which is those 3 kinds of people are people who make it happen? Are you one of those people? And what is it that you want to make happen? And number 2, people who are watching things happen. And number 3, people who didn't even know something happened. And so I want to be one of those people to make something happen. So are you willing to come with me? Let's join this journey and make a new revolution of health. And so thank you, Becky Rainey here, all in on oils. And thanks for joining me today for Becky's Thinking again. And we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.